and welcome to Rugby League Backchat, filmed at the Arc in Headingley. On this edition, I've got two debutants and one old stager, but there's not a fresh face between them, me neither. I'm Richard Stead. Mark Wilson is TalkSport's Rugby League correspondent. Martin Sadler is the editor of League Express. And Craig Harrison is a leading rugby league agent from Show Me the Money UK. Well, gentlemen, we sit here, all full of Easter eggs and full of rugby league. A vintage Easter period, Martin, or not?
Well, certainly an interesting one. I think there have been certainly some vintage moments, and I think the cream is rising to the top, Richard, now. If you look at the league table, obviously Saints are powering ahead, powered by Ben Barber. I thought Ben Barber had two terrific games over the weekend. But the really interesting result for me from Easter Monday was Warrington. Winning at Castleford, that was a game played in the most horrific conditions I've seen.
It was water polo, wasn't it? Not
well,
rugby league.
I was present at the 1968 Water Splash final, and it was, almost like that, and it was almost as though they were trying to recreate those conditions. But tremendous win for Warrington, fourth in a row. Steve Price, I had some doubts about Steve Price, when he first started earlier this season. They weren't getting the results. Price was really trying to get the Warrington defence sorted out, I thought. And, at first I thought they played a fairly dull brand of rugby, if I'm really honest about it. But I think now he's got that sorted out, and they're coming out and they've got these 4 wins. And winning at Cass was absolutely a tremendous result for them. They're into the, top 3 or 4 in the table, and they're looking good. And, Toby King's, I think, one of your players, actually, Craig. Yep. Doing a great job for them. I think, sit back and watch how Warrington develop this season now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you're right about Price. We spoke to him before the season. He said the first job is we've got to be a lot harder to beat. And I thought they were a bit dour in the opening month of the season. But I thought the turning point for them, they went to the Dragons and they nilled them. And all of a sudden now they seem to be concentrating more on the other end of the field, the attack-wise. And great result for them. Should that game have gone ahead at Cass? I don't think it should, if we're honest. No. But I think with Cass already having 2 called off, could they have had another called off? So maybe that's why. But yeah, pleased with Warrington. I think they're definitely on the improve, and I think they're going to be there or thereabouts end of the season.
Who stood out for you, Craig?
What within the results?
Yeah, and the team.
St Helens look like they're just that bit extra at the moment. I think last year Cass dominated the league. I think it was 12, 14 points. They look like all year. But I think St Helens look like that team this year. I think they look totally dominant. I think, like you said, the fullback Barber looks like he's on that another level. Most teams who win a grand final or win a league have got 1 or 2 who are that stand above. And they've definitely got one in him.
It's really interesting, St Helens, isn't it? Because they've got this habit of being able to sign these one-off players who turn out to be brilliant. It goes back to Mal Meninga in the 1980s, who was tremendous. Jamie Lyon more than a decade ago now, but he had that same sort of impact.
Yeah, Gidley as well, I thought.
Gidley was great too, and now it's Ben Barber, and I think he's been a terrific signing, although as many people have said, when he first joined last year, he looked a bit sort of ring-rusty, didn't he? He didn't really look the part, and everybody started to say, God, have they made a terrible mistake here? Because he's obviously the marquee player. But this year he's been absolutely tremendous, although he did get 1 try for Saints at Widnes on Monday that really shouldn't have been allowed. You probably saw the game, he just dropped the ball over the line and it wasn't picked up by the referee, who for some reason didn't go to the video referee on that occasion. But that's the one time he should have done, perhaps.
Are they? I find it hard to get this love in with Saints. Yeah, they're great, they're playing great, but after Cass last year, it's almost like I don't trust them. Yeah, they're the best team in the competition, but until they win it, I don't want to start thinking how great they are. But like you said, Barber, fantastic. Percival, what he's got to do to play for England, goodness only knows.
Well, this whole season, Percival's just shown that he should have been in that England World Cup final team. I mean, he should have been, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Decisions were based on defence. That's what the lads said. They were all on. They thought John in defence were a thing, but I thought that were a very negative way of going about it.
Well, we got nil in that World Cup final, and I don't think we would have done if he'd played.
No.
What about Wigan? What about Hull? 2 other teams that have had decent Easters. I know Wigan lost to Saints, but they were very competitive in that game, and then they did a number on Hull Kingston Rovers on Monday. Are they 2 teams still with a real good chance?
I think Wigan they're quite underachievers. I thought they'd really struggle this year, if I'm honest. I just thought they were quite dour at times last year, and I think credit to Sean Wayne, he's turned them round how they play. all of a sudden scoring plenty of points. The defence is I take it for granted now from Wigan. They're going to defend their line with great power. But I think they've been a quite underachiever. They're up there in the top 4, and I think they're only going to get better. And I think Sam Tomkins is getting better. I think he's come back from the NRL a better player. It might have taken time injury-wise to prove it, but I think Tomkins is a really, really good player.
What a shame that he didn't play at St Helens on Good Friday, because I was really looking forward to seeing how he would rise to the challenge of Ben Barber. Because, you know, I think Tomkins is one of those guys who would respond, you know, to that sort of challenge. And I thought Wigan without him did extremely well at Saints. And as you say, they look to me, I mean, if there is a big threat to Saints this year, it's clearly going to come, I think, from Wigan. And I can see, you know, a grand final between those two sides would be tremendous.
I'm opposite, absolutely, yeah. I think the weather at the moment is a leveller for everybody.
It is.
I think when the dry track comes, you'll see Castle come top 4 again. I'm absolutely positive. I looked at the squad yesterday who didn't play and thought, my God, they're going to have some real players back. You know, there's 3 or 4 who I thought yesterday, I thought, wow, young Truman at full back. I've been saying this for probably 15 months, will be a big star. Not to put too much pressure, of course.
I'm going to ask you every time you big up a player.
But I did say the same about Jack Walker, but no one believed me about Jack. I said, get ready, he's coming. I think
is he one of yours?
Of course. But Truman is an half. But the young Paul McShane said to me about 5 months ago, he said, Craig, he's a fullback, so we had this big debate. Darryl put him in training about 3 weeks ago around back of a play and went, oh my God, because he just knows what to do, which most instinctive, natural player I think I've ever seen. Maybe Ben Curry. I thought a natural, we just think, oh, well, the lad's going to be, I think you'll see him come on in the season, he'll challenge Jack Walker and a few of them others for that young player here.
I think actually there are a lot of quite good young players coming through into Super League at the moment. You know, I mean, Danny Richardson's the most obvious example, isn't he? You know, who's made that place his own this year. And, you know, he only made his debut for Saints last year. And I don't think most people would have expected him to displace Matty Smith. You know, the question now is, what, you know, now that we've got Easter out of the way, where will Matty Smith go? Because, you know, the reports suggest he's going to go on loan somewhere, Catalans perhaps, Salford perhaps, or Hull Kingston Rovers. And I think that's going to be really interesting to find out.
You just said there, I think a lot of them lads though, like Mikelai, Cameron Smith, they can still play 19s. I've seen these play 19s this year, it's incredible. When you watch them like Truey and you're watching Jack Walker, you're thinking these could still, and when they do play, you think, oh, you know, it's fantastic.
We'll talk about individual players predominantly in the second part, but just on the teams, not mentioned Leeds yet. Wakefield, all right, a Sneed drop goal saw them off against Hull, but they've had another good start. Not a good Easter, but another good start. You're frowning there. Yeah, are you not fancying Wakefield?
No, I thought Wakey started the season top 4 material. I still think they might be, but I look at them, they won the first 4, and you look at the ladder, it's the 4 at the bottom of the table. So you're then expecting they've got tough games coming up. Can they kick on? And I don't think they have done. They went to Wigan. I thought they ran out of steam in the second half and narrowly lost there. They went to Warrington, created enough chances to win, didn't win there. Played Cass the other night. I thought they should have beaten Cass, didn't win there. And by the sounds of it, they should have beaten Hull on Monday. So 4 games that they could and maybe should have won, and they've won none of them. And all of a sudden, they've got Leeds this week. I think they need a win quite quickly. Yeah, they've got the talent, but at the moment, the results aren't showing.
It's interesting, isn't it? A lot of coaches tend to say that they're more interested in performance rather than results. And Wakefield's performances have been very, very good indeed. But if you're not getting the results, you know, and they've lost 4 in a row now, that starts to become a bit of a worry. And they play Leeds this weekend, as you say, and that's a tough game for them as well. But it's one that they're absolutely capable of winning. So it's going to be a really fascinating.
Well, it's 2 separate competitions, isn't it? You've got your grand final, and then you've got your top of your league. You cannot compare. You've got to split them. There's no way anybody can put them together because the best team will be the one who finishes top. The best cup team is the one who wins the grand final, who times that run better. There's no one better at Leeds at doing that. And if you look at the way Leeds train, I always was fascinated into how they train, and they never give the players a lot. It was always building up towards the end of the season. I know a lot of clubs had absolutely hammered the since pre-season, playing every game on their edge, and then they're coming. Leeds peak at the right time. So
some of the perceived poorer clubs do win games at the start of the year because they are absolutely primed.
100%.
Whereas some of the bigger clubs struggle maybe because of what you're saying. Talk to us about Leeds, though. I mean, what have you made of their start, Craig?
After last year, I don't make comments. After last year, the way they won the grand final again, I think I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the run they went on, and then
nobody thought they would when they lost 6-10 at Castleford.
Cast were the best team. That's not debatable.
Yeah,
they won it by the record margin. Every week there were crowds coming to watch Cast, but on the day, I can remember sat at Old Trafford and watching them come out, and I looked up at Danny, and Danny just looked as if to say, "This is my dance floor." This is my. It was just a change. I could see it before. I'm saying to my daughter, "Oh my God, Leeds They don't have the same feeling at Challenge Cup, but when they get to that grand final, Old Trafford, you can see the confidence clicks in.
Don't they? Yeah,
100%.
They do. But I mean, the competition is getting interesting now because, in a way, it's looking as though the bottom four might be getting decided fairly early this season. You look at Catalans. I know they beat Huddersfield, but Huddersfield are obviously struggling down there. And then you've got Hull Kingston Rovers. So I thought I had a great game at Huddersfield a few weeks ago. 38-6 it was, wasn't it, when they won there? But they really struggled against Wigan, and they've just not got the squad that can compete at a high level with the best teams.
Lunt and Maguire out doesn't help them.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Mulleren's been tremendous.
He's been I want to talk about that because you mentioned the bottom four. A lot of pundits saying it's perm 4 of 5, isn't it? It's going to be 4 of Huddersfield. Let me get this right: Huddersfield, Salford, Hull KR, Widnes and Catalans.
Yeah.
4 of those will be the bottom 4. Mark, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Look, I think if you'd have asked us at the start of the season to write the league table down after Easter, I think we would have pretty much had it bob on as it is now. And I think in some ways that's quite a sad reflection that we could have done that. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think 4 of those 5 will be in the bottom, and the huge games start at the Hull KR Widnes this week. All of a sudden, must-win games.
Yeah, I think Salford have been doing better than most people thought they would do, if I'm really honest about it. They've not got loads of wins, but they've looked quite impressive, particularly at home. They've won 3 in a row at home now, haven't they?
The worry, though, Martin, is how long is that going to last? Is top players going to be leaving? They've sold one already. Is there going to be more to follow?
Well, you've got to take it as you see it at the moment. And at the moment, given the squad that they've got, I think they could quite easily escape the bottom 4. I think they could be in the top 8, not very high in it. But I think they will. I think they will make it. Robert Louis playing brilliantly. I mean, Hull KR keep trying to sign him, and as you say, that might come about ultimately. And if they do, I'm not quite sure what would happen to Salford. But Salford are trying to get Matty Smith, as I said earlier, on loan. Matty Smith may prefer to go there if he's going to go anywhere on loan, rather than heading off to the south of France or to the east coast. So Salford must have the inside running if they do want to sign him, you would imagine.
Loosely speaking, East Coast, if we're talking all, I think. Cause I think south of France, so yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? And as I say, we'll probably get a prediction from all of you in part 2 of where you think Matty Smith will be going, whether Robert Louis and the like will be staying. But Craig, if we look at the league table and go back to the stragglers, who are the 4 who are going to be playing in the middle 8s? I don't feel bad asking you for a prediction. We've passed Easter, Craig, so I can ask you now in all good faith.
For the bottom 4?
Yes.
I think Widnes will survive the bottom 4 because of the home games on the pitch. It played a bit faster. Here's one for you. My belief is that when you're recruiting pre-season, some clubs might be recruiting to get in the bottom 4, playing the 8s, and think they can then hold a bit of cap back and improve. Then I think that's quite significant. If you did your thing at start of the season, Mark's just said it's not been a genius to pick out the bottom 4 or 5. It's done on pure recruitment. You can tell.
So you're saying that some clubs,
I know.
You're telling us that some clubs recruit knowing that they'll finish bottom 4 and then bring in other players in the middle 8s to make sure they play.
Yeah, I think they'll have
Super
a
League.
contingency plan as a business board. They'd say this is it, and if we throw this at you and this does well, and our coach can over improve players, fantastic. But if not, we've got this pot of 400,000 or 500,000 to pop up in 8 because we think we can beat the likes of Lee, Featherstone, Toronto. That's absolute fact. If you know with inside the game that would happen. And it would happen in a lot of businesses. You wouldn't throw everything in and then come to 8s and say, we've got nothing left, I've got injuries, and we've hit the cap. That'd be suicide.
Because
Hopefully.
the fact is the 8's are the vital part of the season.
Of course.
That's where it all counts, isn't it? And that's one of the weaknesses of this structure.
Of course.
It delays the sort of settlement date in a way.
Have a look how many signings get made just before 8.
I want to talk about player welfare. Martin, you've already alluded to the fact that you've wrote about the game for a very long time. How often have you addressed the topic of player welfare over East? Just roughly, how many years have you been talking about it?
We've written about it an awful lot, you know, year after year after year. But you know, we've sort of said in years gone by that we don't believe that there should be 2 games at Easter, for example. But I think we've stopped doing that now, if I'm really honest about it, because you know, you sometimes get the feeling that some things will never change, whatever you might think about it. And I think that's, you know, that's going to carry on. Some players actually, and Ben Barber's a great example, saying in our newspaper this week that he actually likes the idea of playing twice at Easter because, you know, he prefers playing to training. And a lot of players are in that boat, aren't they?
I've got not one of mine to complain about playing.
No.
Not one. Not one. And the youngsters more than the older ones, because the youngsters get a chance usually at Easter.
That's right. That's when they get. Yeah.
There's nobody who'll.
You look at the
and some
teams
of the old ones are quite happy to say, listen, play a couple of them over Easter.
Yeah.
So the only people who could complain, maybe the fans who say, you know, we want to see the stars. But hey.
Well, formulate your own opinions about the Easter period, because we'll start with that in the second part of this week's edition of Rugby League Back Chat, filmed here at the Ark in Headingley. Welcome back to Rugby League Back Chat from the Ark in Headingley. Before the break, we were talking about Easter and the often trotted out conversation of player welfare. Mark, let me come to you. This is a debate, Martin already mentioned it, that we seem to have every single year. It's going to happen next year and the year after. Is it time now to either put a line through this conversation or make a change or do what? What is the solution? Because I'm a bit bored of it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, look, I can see what Craig said earlier about young players get a chance. That's great, but that's getting a chance really under false pretences. I think the season's too long. It's as simple as that. We're playing, we're a third way through the season, and no one who's been to the rugby has been in any. It's about 5 degrees of top temperature. Why are we playing in these conditions? Shorten the season, get rid of the double weekend, make it one play. You play each other twice. That's it. Go to the playoffs. Let's improve the standard of the competition.
Pay the players less because the attendance is, the money's down.
Sky money will be the same, won't it? So, I think the clubs, the onus is on them. I think less is more. The less games you have. How many people didn't go to Cass Warrington at the weekend because it's raining, it's bouncing down, it's freezing cold? I think, well, to be fair, they're going to play them again in the 8s anyway. I'll just go to that one. There's too much of it. Get less of it, you get more people to go. That's my opinion.
When do you start the season then?
Probably, I don't know, about late March, something like that. I haven't worked out.
Because you do know it's more likely to snow at Easter than it is at Christmas.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, I can't argue with that. But also, is it going to snow? How many Easters has it snowed? Is this the one?
Well, more Easters than Christmases. That's all. I know that's a fact. But when
well,
do you
start? There was one famous occasion on when a cricket match in Buxton in Derbyshire County Cricket Club was cancelled in June because of snow. So snow could come at potentially any time, particularly in the Peak District. But no, I said before on this programme, I would play rugby league in the 31 weeks that comprise British summertime. I'd start straight after the clocks go forward. So, the weekend, the Easter weekend this year would have been my opening week of the season, and carry on until the clocks go back at the end of October. That gives you 31 weeks exactly. And if you can't fit a season into 31 weeks, then there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. But we need to do that. I mean, people always say this, don't they? That if you reduce the number of matches, would you have to reduce the payments to players and all this sort of thing? My view is that if you reduce the number of games, made it a more intense competition, it would be far easier to see an increase in crowds, to get more people to games, particularly if you played, if you cut out the real awful weather in February and March. So, I think it's a very negative view to say that, by shortening the season, you would have to pay the players less. I think you'd actually be able to treat the players in the way they deserve to be treated, giving them a proper close season and a proper pre-season, and and then a season that actually makes sense.
What are your players telling you, Craig?
Players are players. They'd rather play than train. They play in any conditions. I mean, I spoke to a few last night at the Cass lads, crying with laughter, and obviously that they got beat, that were devastating, but they said the conditions, like Mark said, shouldn't have been played. And if you think about it from a Cass point of view, who play? All they do is look to play on every point, play. They shouldn't have played it, because it were a leveller for any other team who played Cass in them conditions. It's actually probably -10 in Cass's negativity to play in that condition. So I think Mark hit the nail. They'd cancelled 2, they couldn't afford to cancel another one, so it was down to money. We'd all love to see it on a nice summer's day. You go for a beer, you go and watch the match. I've done about 12 games in the last 16 days, maybe in reserves and 19s, and it's horrific. I sat on Odsal.
And you live to tell the tale.
Yeah, Odsal on Sunday. I've never been as cold as that. I were on the top. I were looking down to Odsal top and thought, this can't get any worse. The rugby, it was knockathon. It was certainly, I don't think, and the lads give everything. That's what makes us think. I don't know if the players will play anywhere. I've not got any player on my books, I guarantee you.
But that's not the issue of what the players are prepared to do. Of course, the players love playing.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be playing if they didn't.
Yeah.
And they'll play at any time. But that's not the issue, is it? The issue is
you're saying the quality's lessened.
The quality is the key.
Yeah.
The quality is the key.
It's interesting as well, because are we watering down our own product? Because you look the week before, everybody played on a Friday night, so there's all the games are on one night, and then they all play again on Friday, barring Wakefield, Castleford, and then they all play again on Monday. Now, working for a national broadcaster, they're wanting to broadcast games. They're all on at the same time. They can't do it. Sky, all right, they might have covered a couple of games yesterday, but I just think have a weekend, so Thursday, Friday, a game on Saturday, couple on Sunday, one on Monday, and have a weekend of Super League and really showcase the sport rather than try to wedge everything in. And we're missing out. You've got a trade paper, you can't cover the Monday game. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and we're the only sport that actually puts matches up against our own televised games.
Exactly.
To cut down the TV audience, and that's where we got most of the money from. So it's a crazy policy, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
Well, you look at the NFL, I watch a lot of NFL and I'm thinking rugby league could learn so much. They have a Thursday night game and the Sunday night game and the Monday night game. I do think we could learn. There's no other games on.
The other thing they do, incidentally, in the NFL is they leave Saturday for the college game. So that they don't play NFL games on a Saturday. Those are all college games. And it's a bit like, if we had here, we left Saturday just for Championship and League One games and play Super League on the other days.
You can get a little bit fooled by the NFL, though, I think, because if you bear in mind the majority of their kick-off times are still tailored to getting bums on seats in the stadium, because they're Sunday lunchtime games that we're watching of a Sunday evening. They don't televise in the area that the game is taking place unless the game is a sellout.
Yeah.
So to use that here, you wouldn't be watching Leeds Rhinos in Leeds unless Headingley was packed out. So I agree with the essence of the NFL comparison, but there are a couple of little nuances there.
Yes, there are.
We're in the process of, we're going to be soon trying to get a new TV deal, and then we're wondering why people aren't watching the TV, because the majority of fans are at games elsewhere on the same day. They're selling against their own products, and
Absolutely.
I don't understand why we do that. We should prioritise it, make it a big event, one game, whoever it is, whether it is Salford Widnes, like we saw the other week. It wasn't a great game, but it was on and we watched it. I think you've just got to try and prioritise and make it special. We're looking for stars in our game. The best way to get stars is to get people watching it on the telly, and that means not putting it on at the same time as all the other games.
Well, we're going to talk about the players now because it's probably quite right that we do so.
Sure.
Ben Barber's already had a bit of airtime on the programme, so let's take as read that you're all signed up and members of the fan club. But who else at this stage of the season is really catching your eye? And Craig, you're allowed to mention other people's players in this bit as well.
I'll struggle with that. Who would I pick out as a standout player? I would say I think Tompkins' resurgence back into a bit of form has been great for the game.
Sure.
I thought he'd lost a yard, and I really thought, no, he's not going to come back. I thought he'd had too much going off outside the game, inside. He's come back determined.
Don't you think it's remarkable that
respect him for it.
Don't you think it's remarkable he's not in the England elite training squad?
I don't know, because as I say, if I looked at young Jack Walker and that, I'd be thinking I know where I'd be going with it. I know
Oh,
where the
in the long
future
term,
lies.
yes, in the long term.
I'd say he won't be far off.
Yeah,
now.
but with
I think
Hardaker not there, of course, I'd have thought Tompkins was, should be there personally.
Yeah, maybe. I think that were a thing that shocked everybody last year. I think there's a couple at Wakey. I always laugh. There's a player at Wakey. You look at Liam Finn, and I about durability, and I'll get some stick off lads for this because Finney's one of them people. You think, well, he's got no pace.
Yeah.
He's not this. He's not that. And then you watch Finney, you think he's taking a team round or a top 16. He gets a year-to-year contract and just signs again, and they all write him off by June, and he comes back and plays well again. He manages it very well.
Yeah.
I thought Greg Bird in a bad Catalan side, absolutely just immense.
Yeah.
I've never seen a guy throw his body into contact like that. It's just incredible.
I had some doubts about Greg Bird for this season, and when he missed a few games at the start of the year, I thought, I'm not sure he's been a good signing for them again. But as you say, the last couple of games, he's actually played really well for them.
And one, I'm not one to the things, but one I'd throw in is Alex Foster for Castleford. I know he's one of mine, but he's making 45, 50 tackles a game. He's making 15, 16 carries. It's immense for a kid who on a free contract 15 months.
Give us some more names, Martin.
Well, the other kid who's shone really in the last few weeks is Ash Handley at Leeds, who's been outstanding. And, not a kid who can rely on getting a place. I mean, he's been playing at left centre while Liam Sutcliffe has been out. And I think McDermott has said that, he's going to pick him at left centre again this weekend against Wakefield, despite the fact that Sutcliffe is fit again, because you can't drop him basically. He's played really well, and, he's been scoring tries for fun. You sort of wonder, I mean, Ash Handler's been at Leeds now in that sort of 18th man position now for several years. And, you wonder, is he ever going to really make that place his own, or should he go somewhere else to actually get a regular first team place? Because I'm pretty sure that plenty of other clubs would be keen on signing.
It's going to be interesting. Jimmy Kynors, I don't know if he's one of yours, but his contract, I think, is up end of the year.
Yeah.
And he's a player, whenever he plays for Leeds, he always plays really well. I can't understand. I know there's been Super League interest in him. I'd be surprised if he stays at Leeds. So it'd be interesting what Hanley does really on that one.
And the other guy, Rob Malone at Hull KR, he's been terrific, hasn't he?
He has,
Although not played the last couple of
No,
games.
he's missed the last couple.
Yeah.
I think Carlos Tuamavavi, if I'm allowed to throw one into, I think really he's had a astonishing start to the season, and Fatuli Talanoa must be licking his lips every time Tuamavavi gets the ball because he's scoring tries for fun. Let's talk a couple of storylines at the moment. As we sit here, Huddersfield Giants haven't got a head coach. These things change like that. But is it Chris Thorman's to lose, Martin, or will someone else come in and you've spoke to Richard Thewlis, the chief exec there?
Yeah, I think it probably is Chris Thorman's to lose, and I think Huddersfield would probably like to promote from within. And Chris Thorman, interestingly, actually, in the interviews he's given since Rick Stone left, Chris Thorman has said that he actually disagreed with Stone on quite a few issues, actually, in terms of the way the team prepared for the game and the team's tactics and so on, which is interesting that he should come out and say that. And they did, I think, play a different sort of game against Leeds, when they drew 22-all. Although they then went to Catalans with a team that was really inexperienced, and they got beaten by the Dragons in Perpignan. So I don't know. Quite a few people have said Tony Smith. Tony Smith's his odds have shortened. The guy who I would go for, though, if I were running a club and looking for a new coach now, I'd be going for Jason Demetriou, who's an assistant coach at Brisbane Broncos, knows the British game extremely well. I've been a fan of Jason Demetriou, both as a player and as a coach, for years and years and years. And I think his commitment and dedication, which we saw at Wakefield when he played for them and managed to get them out of relegation trouble in 2006. And then he started coaching at Keighley and got them promotion a few years later. I think he's a tremendous potential for being one of the coaches of the future.
Yeah, got a young family. Is he going to want to uproot
well,
that?
You don't know until you ask him. You don't know, do you?
I'm not so sure he is. I've got a question because should Rick Stone have been sacked, and is it Rick Stone's fault Huddersfield are where they are, or is it down to recruitment? Because you made a point earlier on. You look at the league table and you look at how teams have recruited. I think Huddersfield's recruitment's been poor for a long time. I think he inherited a squad that was salary capped up to the hilt. He had no wiggle room to get any players in or out. I think he's had to get rid of a couple of players he would have liked to keep just to get some room on the salary cap. And then he's left, there's players there, if we believe the reports, and let's be fair, we've all got our sources, players there on ridiculous amounts of money. And I think that's the problem with someone higher up the food chain than Rick Stone. So, maybe he could have got a little bit more out of players. He kept them up in year one, he got them in the top 8 last year, and all of a sudden he's not good enough. I'm not so sure he was the problem at Huddersfield.
Who's next then, though, Mark?
Neil Henry's been mentioned, hasn't he, from the NRL. He was offered, apparently he was offered a job at Leeds, didn't take it for whatever reason. I just think, I like Chris Thorman, he's a great student of the game. Whenever I go to the Giants, he's looking at games, he's watching footage, he's talking to players. So it'd be nice to see him given a chance. I'm not sure, though, it's the right chance for him. What are the expectations at Huddersfield? I think it needs someone to come in and clear it out. But you can't just do that in salary cap. You can't do what you do at football. So I'm getting 10 new players and I'm getting rid of you lot.
You've got to work with what you've got, haven't you? That's the point.
And I'm just wondering. I'm wondering what is going on at Huddersfield. I've got to be honest.
Well, while you wonder, Craig's going to tell us who the next head coach is going to be.
I think it'll be Tony Smith. I think it's tailor-made for Tony to come in and rejuvenate the Giants on and off the field. I think he's got a challenge that he'll take on. I don't think he's I think he's winning with the game, but his love of the game stayed. I think he just got stale and probably lost a bit of interest. I think that time away is a great thing sometimes. You look at what you did wrong, you can reassess what you think you need to do right. I think it'd be perfect. I'd love Chris Thorman to be given a crack. I'm all for somebody who's been there within. On the Rick Stone debate, I'd have made that call. Recruiting-wise, they're very middle-based. So they have a lot of middle players, what I call 50, 60,000 pound things. I think, seen a couple of them youngsters lately. Now, youngsters can only get better by getting games. And Wigan are very good at it, St Helens, where they say 5 games this year, which enables them to play them 10, 12 next year. Year after, I can then... If you don't introduce a youngster, you're another year. Then he has to make his debut. Then it takes him 6 to 8 games guaranteed. Every young player has to get used to playing at that level. You've got to do it sometime, I promise you. You can't.
And they're coming into winning sides, Craig. Those teams you mentioned, youngsters are coming through, and that's easier as well, isn't it?
100%. But you've got to. If you look at what you're doing here, is if you don't, as I say, it's another year, and you get these players, or what I call mid-players, you carry on with that. The more youngsters are on 10 to 15, 20 grand, which should enable you in a capped system to pay the big boys the big bucks.
I think we can get a bit of an insight from Craig in part 3. In fact, I think as part of what we do, we're going to play a game of Ask the Agent, where Martin, Mark and myself can try and get a few gossipy tidbits from Craig Harrison. And we'll also look ahead to many other things going on over the next weeks and months in the world of rugby league here on Backchat at the Arc in Headingley. Welcome back to the third and final part of Rugby League Backchat from the Arc in Headingley. You may have noticed Craig Harrison is with us this week. Craig is a Rugby League agent, Show Me the Money UK. So I thought we might ask the agent for 5 minutes or so and maybe find out a few things that we don't know. Craig, I'm going to throw a cliche at you. A contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. Is that true or false?
False in our game. It's a very small game. So if you upset people in this game, it's very hard to... It's not like football where you can mix and match. You often say about interest in a player, but all they do is the CEOs ring each other. Hey, mate, have you actually made it? So if you said to a CEO, I've got 120,000 for this player, he'll just pick the phone up and speak to the player who you mentioned. So it's just small playground. No, you stick to your word. I tell players, certainly my players, long-term contracts scare me. That's what I don't like in our game. I absolutely, because you pick a kid up at 18 and he says, "Oh, I've got a 5-year deal." You go, and then you see what it's on and you think, no, that can't be allowed. He should have had representation. It should have been. I can't go into the details, but some of them are horrific. So for me, short-term deals. I know.
You mean they sign long-term deals on insufficient money?
Oh my God, yeah. They get them at, and the new ruling is so from this compensation to be paid from 15-year-old. So we haven't got a transfer market in our game really. So if a kid's signed at a club, he literally has to stay at that club till he's 23-year-old, or this compensation. So it's real restriction of earning money. And some kids are on 4-year deals. And I said I had one last year, and I said, "Why did you sign the deal?" And he said, "Well, you know, they took me and my mum to the restaurant and they give the story." And I just went, I was like, and I actually called what money we're on. His mum said, "What do you think he'll be on, Craig?" I went, "He'll be on blah, blah, blah." She says, "He is within 2,000. And I said, "Well," and he said, "What do we do now?" I said, "You don't do anything. You'll just get topped up. That means, "Oh, but they've said they're going to give me more money." I said, "Yeah, they will do, but they'll extend your contract." Right. So it's impossible.
Craig, from an agent's point of view, what about strength in depth? We're always hearing that the pool of players, young players, isn't big enough. Give us your view.
As I say, I've just done a grassroots rugby league, which means taking my players to a lot of the junior amateur clubs and giving a bit back. Also letting the youngsters have a hero and get close to them. And I've noticed the talent's definitely there. What they do is they struggle with numbers. As in, so they'll say to me, "Tweet about your players coming." So I might have Mickey Lyde, Cameron Smith, Danny Maguire, Luke Gale coming. And they'll say the numbers will go up because the players are coming. So I hope that somewhere along the line, what we're doing emphasises, get the star players to go. You know, I notice a lot of youngsters don't have the name on the shirt no more, which I always found barbaric because I spent me up with Billy Bremner on back of mine, you know, and things like that. And I were looking and saying, you know, "Where's your heroes?" And a couple of them didn't have a clue. I said, "Who's the current man of steel?" Don't have a clue. "Who do you like watching as a player?" Don't know. And we
That's really
I've done
interesting,
15 meetings and I've sat with them all. And then the end of session, they love you. You know, the DMing, the mums and dads saying, "Can't believe you've done that. Can't believe you give something back." The kids are absolutely inspired. The week after, the numbers go up. So I'm hoping the rugby league get over the grassroots thing and absolutely smash it. And the new people who come in say, "Come on, let's get round our schools. Let's get round these junior clubs. Take the players to the front. Take the players with you."
Well, I know so many people who have started watching or playing rugby league because of the experience of having a leading player coming to their school
100%.
or coming to their junior club. You know, it's just quite incredible. So it's something that needs to be done and intensified all the time because you know you never know where the next great players are coming from, do you?
We did one at Stanley Rangers a bit ago, and I don't think they realised themselves how many Super League stars come within their amateur club.
Yeah.
And one of the guys I took started talking, and he's like, "Oh, I can remember playing at Stanley Rangers, Adam Milner," and they started to roll off this roll of honour. The kids' eyes were like that, and they could suddenly see the professional player telling them, and they all ran out to see what car they had. Unlucky for us in rugby league, it's not a Porsche, it's a Fiat Punto, but you've got the drift. They were all like inspired by it. Fantastic.
Right, let's let the two proper journalists ask the questions. Craig's had 3 of those to our 1. So, Mark, what would you like? You've got a rugby league agent at your disposal. What are you going to ask him?
Yeah, I want to know the paltry figures these young lads earn in comparison to football, for instance. Does it put young players off? We know what they've got to go through. They've got to live a pretty strict life if you want to become a rugby league player, but they're earning minimal money. You know, they earn more money going working in a bank, for instance. Does that put people off, do you think?
No, because the dream's always there. The dream will stay within. Should they be paid more? Of course they should. Full-time should be minimum 18 grand. I've had lads in grand finals on £9,000 who've been called greedy, which is horrific. You know, maybe I can't get into that because I get too thing with it, too emotional with it. But so the way they're doing now is if a part-time player gets to go full-time, they'll work that in with college. So they can afford to pay them a low wage, even though they're probably doing the same hours rugby-wise, but then they have to, on top of that, to college. That's supposed to be for an education, but a lot of clubs can use that as a way of financing the offer they give you. So it needs looking at seriously. But as I say, it's a myth. It's a myth. There's a lot of people out there playing full time on less than £15,000. If that answers your question.
That's amazing, isn't it? Really, when you think about it. The thing I was going to ask you, Craig, was, I mean, you're clearly committed to rugby league and to British rugby league. You've got a whole host of players who are playing at various levels in the game. But how much pressure are you under as an agent, for example, to send players, say, into the other code of rugby union, where the money is generally greater, or even to the NRL? You must have some players who are, lining up, receiving offers from NRL clubs, and again, the money is now far greater there than it is here. So it must put you in that situation where you've got to deal with a whole range of people, from either the union code or from Australia.
I work for the player. I have no feelings about. I have the loyalty feeling if I think somebody's been treated well and improved within a system. But take Callum McClelland. That's a young lad who was England captain at 16. Callum went into full time with Cass and did his first year. Callum was coming out of contract in his second year. I spoke to Darryl and the club about what I thought would happen. There was an offer made, and then Jamie Ellis, Corey Aston got signed. So I just, said to Darryl, look, we're out of contract. We'll play our contract out, or we can get you a fee now. And Callum will go to Scotland now, Edinburgh Rugby Union. I'd let Darryl know and the club all the way through the talks. I can only, when the pathway's not there, I'll react aggressively and say, if you're going to bring a player in who I think is no better than the young lad and you're saving 50,000, and if you develop this kid within a year, this kid's better than him anyway, you go in. That player will go quicker than he can even blink. And I don't have any hesitation.
And it's easy to move him on then, is it? I mean,
if you're good at your job.
Yeah.
And you've ID'd your talent. You've got to make sure the talent's there. And the Callum, I knew would make a success in rugby union. I believe he will, because very intelligent, very open-minded, always the leader of every group. So when I took him to Scotland and introduced him, they couldn't believe how forward he was. He's played 4 games already in 12 weeks. He's played 4 internationals. Scotland 20s beat England, and Callum won at matches. They might even take him.
So it's a big loss to us.
Massive loss. Yeah. And what a character. But as I say, once the pathway's there, he was out of contract. I said, look, if there's a pathway there, and the money were probably 3-4 times more in rugby union for the same deal.
Are some clubs better to deal with than others? I would
100%. I don't deal with 3 or 4.
That's what I was going to ask you. So there's some clubs you won't deal with at all?
Not a waste of space. No, don't believe in what they do. Don't believe in. If a player says to me, I want to go there, that's different. I work for the player. That my whole loyalty. But I will try and say to them, listen, there's some clubs that I just don't agree with what they're doing. I don't agree with the pathways. I don't agree. Listen, I have certain clubs. If a coach is good, let's say Powley. I call Powley plus 30 grand. Because you put a 30 grand player in, makes him a 60 grand player. That's fact. Within the game, everybody knows Powley can improve every player. Whether he achieves greatness in.
Do you think he's the best coach in the game? Just a matter of.
Well, for coaching, there's no one even. It's not a thing. But coaching, there's managing as well. Brian Mack's probably as good a manager of people I have ever seen. But as a coach on the field, Darryl reigns supreme. There's no doubt. Look at the players; he's improved. You don't have to see Mike McGeechan, Craig Minicky. You just look and you go, "Oh my God, how did that happen that quick?" Luke Gale ended up being manager.
Dennis Solomon,
Paul McShane, Dennis. The list is endless. So as an agent, when I said to him, take Alex Foster on a free contract, I know Alex Foster becomes a big player because I knew what Darryl saw in him, what I saw in him. Under that coaching, you become a better player. Fact. A little one for you is I had a player called Louis Biernick. I think you've just seen he went to Hull FC.
Yeah.
If I can give you a little idea into what happened. So we asked London for permission to talk to clubs. He was out of contract, got the permission, started talking to clubs. I organised him to go and see 3 clubs, which were Hull FC, Wigan and Warrington. We went down, the presentations were all different, fantastic. Every one of them were such a privilege to go around. The culture at Wigan was absolute. The presentation were bordering on something I used to do in business. It were fantastic. They all turned up very personal. Sean Wayne's passion was, I think it actually put Lewis back. It were unbelievable. It was. You can understand that one, can't you? You're going to come here and we're going to make you a player. And I've got the hairs up back in my head. It's always the players. It's Warrington had a game that night against St Helens, but they presented it fantastic. Hull and Radders and Gaz Ellis, who met us, were really laid back. So they're laid back, and Radders is slaughtering all lads for the jeans and the pants, and it cracks on. And Gareth's come in and said, "It's my first player, Craig. I said to the kid, I said, you've got a week. Go home, speak to mum and dad, speak to family, get your thoughts." He kept coming back and saying, what do you think? I said, no, you would have met this call. You would have lived with this one. And he kept coming back to said, I really enjoyed Crack at Hull. I really enjoyed. So as soon as he said that, that's my job is then to maximise the deal for the lad, which I did.
Excellent stuff. Some really good stuff there from Craig. I feel we need to do a bit of any other business to wrap things up. We mentioned Matty Smith in Dispatches in part 1. Where's he going to be playing his rugby for the remainder of the season? Is he sticking or is he twisting, Martin?
Well, we're guessing, aren't we? But I'm sure he'll go out on loan somewhere. My guess would be Salford, because the other two clubs that have been linked with him are Hull KR and the Catalans, and I suspect that he'd probably prefer to remain west of the Pennines. And Salford, I think, are showing some signs of promise this season. So I see that happening.
Played for him before as well, hasn't he? I know it's a different club now, but he has been there before. He needs to be playing for me. You say stick or twist at the minute, he's busting. He's not doing anything, is he? So he needs to get out and get some rugby under his belt.
He got a few minutes, didn't he, against Widnes on Monday?
It's almost an insult, isn't it, really? To a player of that stature. You look what he did for Wigan when they had all them injuries. He got them to the grand final and got them over the line. He would be a big addition to somewhere like Hull KR. The only worry I have him go to Salford is that means he's going in, someone's going out. Is it a cost-cutting exercise? Get rid of Louis and get him in for half the wage type thing.
You never know until it happens. You never know, do you?
We've been very Super League centric. That's my fault. I'll take the brickbats for that. A word on the Championship and below. I mean, how very briefly, 60 seconds, Martin, on what you've seen in the Championship.
Fascinating to see London's Broncos stumbling now. They've lost both their games over Easter against Toulouse at home, and then going to Lee and losing. But I thought that would happen, if I'm really honest about it. I thought Lee would get back on the horse, pretty quickly after a poor start to the season, and it just makes it a more interesting competition, doesn't it, now, because it's much less certain now who the top four are going to be in that league. Toronto are top. They went to Toulouse on Monday and won a very narrow victory there. All interesting stuff.
London's squad's not as big as Toulouse have the brass to bring it. Toronto have the brass to bring something in any time they want. I thought London would struggle over Easter period. I think Toronto will be right up there. London are absolute bolter, and a credit to our game, all what they're doing. But money will tell you that. I'll tell you now.
Yeah, no, pleasing. You look at it, Toronto top of the pile, Toulouse up there, London in the 4. Featherstone, I thought, recruited really well. They're doing well. The 4 is probably as you would have it at the minute. I'm going to be interested. I think those 4, if they are in end of the season, are really going to give the big boys at the bottom end of Super League a rattle.
I think it'll be the first time that we've had 4 Championship clubs that all have a chance of being promoted, in that qualifiers competition.
What about the NRL? What have you made of that so far? And a number of former Super League players, albeit not all of them Brits abroad, are performing well, Martin.
Well, I think the NRL's been a great competition so far. We've only had 4 rounds of it, but you look at Blake Green, for example, at New Zealand Warriors, won their first 4 games. Blake Green's combination with Sean Johnson's been terrific, although Johnson didn't play at the weekend when the Warriors went to the Roosters and won. Corey Thompson at West Tigers. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it?
Keeping Fanua out, isn't it?
Yeah, keeping
Fanua out.
Keeping Fanua out, scoring tries for fun, saving tries as well. He's been, nobody in the NRL could remember who the heck he was, because he'd been at Widnes for quite a few years. But, they're all going on about him now.
Quick word, NRLU, Craig.
James Graham.
Right.
Sam Burgess, our lads, Elliot Whitehead, all performing. James Graham at the moment's rejuvenating another club. His spirit shining through. His pathway is like Morley did in Ellis. He's leading a pathway for the next
We're going to have to leave it there, gentlemen, I'm afraid. Time has beaten us, and I'm really fearing for those 2 buttons on the front of Craig's jacket as well. One of them's going to have my eye out. But before we bid farewell to Mark Wilson, Craig Harrison and Martin Sadler, let's find out what's coming up. And the next bit of rugby league action live on Premier Sports is Toronto Wolfpack's trip to the Batley Bulldogs. And for all the forthcoming action right here on this channel, go to www.freesports.tv. And that's all we've got time for. So thanks again to the 3 amigos. I've been Richard Stead, and the programme will be back in a fortnight's time with Dave Woods at the helm.